Welcome back. I must say I've been looking forward to this panel a great deal. It's a topic that's very close to my heart. For those of you that know me and my team in Heyward Hospitality Solutions, employee engagement, empowering employees, it's a critical part of what we're all about, why we exist as a company. So to have the opportunity to talk with three inspiring leaders in our industry, as I see them anyway, is a great opportunity. We have Sally Beck, who you've already met, our host at the Royal Lancaster here. Joanne, Taylor-Stagg from the Athenaeum. Tom Finn from Edwards and Finn. We'll come back to him in a moment. From my point of view, the reason why this topic is just such a passion, as it is, I think, for all of us, is that in our industry, we know that it's our people that make the difference. That sounds fine in normal times. And a topic like this in normal times, it's always going to have value. But a time like this, the leadership that it takes to really deliver on the engagement with our employees, it's at a whole different level. So our conversations leading up to this panel and the interactions we'll have now is going to give you a chance to see how that has been playing out from the point of view of leaders in fine hotels and for those of us supporting leaders. So perhaps, Sally, if I can invite you to introduce yourself again.
Sure. I'm Sally Beck, General Manager, very proud General Manager of the Royal Lancaster. Thanks very much indeed, Michael. Very important topic, employee engagement and flexibility of employment. And as a leader over the last, well, I suppose it's 9 months now really that we've been fighting with this pandemic, flexibility and engagement is absolutely key. I think more than ever it's important to remember that employees choose the employers that they choose to work for. And it's something that I think is really important that during these troubled times, employers think really carefully about how they treat their employees to make sure that they deliver on the promises of those jobs to ensure engagement for the long term. There's stuff that I'm working on with the Hoteliers Charter, which is about raising top employers. And I'm hoping that once we get into launching that, employees will choose hoteliers that sign up to the Charter of a way to look after employees properly.
I think that's a great example of the kind of leadership that we need to be thinking about and focusing on at a time like this. And Joanne, you've also been a bit active and grabbing that leadership responsibility and opportunity, if you want to see it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that you take out of this situation, I'm not sure there's a better word for it than situation, is that it has forced our roles to change completely. And our roles have become far more diverse. Our remit has just massively changed and expanded. And we're doing things that we either haven't as leaders ever done before or haven't done for years and years. Our teams have got significantly smaller. And we've had to be creative and adapt and change. And there's absolutely no way you could do that unless you had a phenomenal team. And that team has become your absolute go-to in a crisis. So I think it's amazing what you can achieve with less people who are absolutely engaged, absolutely empowered, and absolutely flexible.
Doesn't work otherwise. And
it definitely doesn't.
It has to be both on the team members' side and the leaders' side from what you're both saying, and the interaction between those is where we are most likely to get through this as best as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody from the board to our apprentices and everywhere in between. Yeah. Every single person has had to adapt and do things differently.
So, where does a recruitment person sit in all of this? What are you doing on this?
I was going to say, if I'm honest, I think I just took the wrong door. And now I'm here, I thought I'd take advantage of this opportunity. No, I think with regards to the panel, as you said, we're looking at it from the perspective from the leaders themselves, which I think is massively important at a time like this. But we in recruitment we are not redundant, and apologies for using the phrase that I am, but we're not redundant in this situation. In fact, our impact needs to be elevated to a point where it's back to the human element, less of the sales element and more of the support, more of the advice, more of the intel in what we're seeing in the industry. And one of our biggest roles ever, and now more than ever, is empowering the people that are on the market. Anybody that sits with me for longer than 5 minutes will know how passionate I am. Anybody that sort of has seen the show that I do every Friday, we give an opportunity to a candidate to promote themselves. That goes against every recruitment bone in anybody's body. If anybody's watching this in recruitment, they'll think, what the heck are you doing? But this is what this is all about, is giving them the opportunity to say their piece in a market where they deserve it more than ever. So that's, I guess, why I'm here.
Rather than being that classic transaction-focused recruitment person, you've been prepared to break the rules.
Throw them out the window.
And allow people to stand up and speak for themselves on your TV channel.
Yeah, so this...
TV channel, that sounds impressive. You could have a studio like this.
Not quite. But no, it's something that I feel is massively important now. And talking to leaders like Joanne and like Sally and many others, I'm starting to realise where recruitment actually sits. It's not your, and I know that you two would have experienced this before, but it's not your weekly calls where you avoid them and get them, you say, oh, not right now, talk tomorrow, or you keep them at the gatekeeper. We need to be there to be lending a hand and saying, look, I'm here to help. I'm here to talk to you. I'm here to provide whatever I can, however I can. And don't worry about me talking to you about, do you need any people? Have you got any jobs? Yeah. It's about, what can I do to help? Yeah. And if I can't do anything right now, then call me when you're ready.
I think that really does show how on this panel you've got a range of people who see this as an opportunity to take a lead and stand up for what we really believe in. I think that gives us an opportunity to come back, Sally, to you and the Hoteliers Charter that you're working on, because we've touched on it before in what Joanne said, the commercially driven decisions that you've been having to make, that all GMs have been having to make. How does that sit with an idealised charter of hoteliers' conduct?
Listen, I think honesty and integrity in everything that you're doing is key. I treat my team as adults. I shared with them a few months ago that it's unlikely I'm going to get through this without making redundancies. I asked a question about whether there were any team members that had got an SIA licence, which is a security licence, because we've been previously using an agent. And there was one team member that did, so we moved them into security to help us lock down the hotel properly. And then when we came back to opening up, 4 other team members, food and beverage, event porter, an event sales manager, a kitchen coordinator, had all put themselves through the SIA course under their own back with their own costs and said, will it help? And yeah, it really helped. They're all working now in security and looking after us. So that flexibility, that trust, that honesty, that communication is really important. It's somewhat where it sits with the Hoteliers Charter. The Hoteliers Charter is about people choosing a career in hotels, not just a job, that they are guided, mentored, coached. They've got apprenticeships. They've got a career for life, and it can change. I didn't go to university. I started as a trainee manager, earning 50 quid a week, live in, and here I am looking after one of the best hotels in London. It can be done, but you need that career within your hotel, and you need a leader and a GM that is going to look after you properly and care for you properly. And the charter is all about that. There's 10 points. They're all quite simple. They're all quite transparent. And they're all knocking on the right doors in terms of diversity, environmental care, doing rotas properly. not doing a rota weekly, doing a rota fortnightly or monthly preferably, so because people have got lives, looking at work-life balances, working with Hospitality Action as a employee assist program. All of these things are stuff that we should be doing as a good employer. And basically, I believe the Hoteliers Charter is something that we should shout about within hospitality, because I think hotels can do it better. And I think because of that, that will hopefully increase our standing in Joe Public's eyes that this is a career and an industry that you want your kids to go into. That you can think, oh, actually, that's a really interesting career. I mean, God, I've been in the lift with Take That when the first time around, and with Prince, which is interesting, and sporting stuff and all sorts of stuff you do in our industry that you don't do in others. And it's a fascinating, vibrant, global industry that takes you everywhere, and hotels do it better generally. And I think that's what I want to shout about within the Charter. And then employees out there can choose their employers with confidence, knowing that the foundations of what they need in a career, being mentored, coached, trained, having a social life within their industry is there. So,
fantastic. And tell us more, Joanne, about what you're doing in taking the lead with employee engagement and flexibility, and thinking again about that leadership angle on it and that focus.
Sure. I think, as Sally said, integrity, honesty is absolutely key. I think as leaders, we have to find a way of creating some kind of vision and some kind of hope, but with some harsh realities. I don't think there's anybody that has got out of this unscathed and not had to say goodbye to some really good people who did really good jobs and did nothing wrong. They just happen to be in an awful situation. So I think, being honest and fair and giving people the opportunity, and that really brings in the flexibility piece, having a team that is able to do anything from the door. And if I'm honest, my team have astounded and amazed me at how much they have learnt. If you'd said to me, before all of this, you could run a hotel on the numbers that we are, able to do the things that they can. There has never been so much cross-training and learning as, in my entire career. I've never seen anything like it. And so out of this awful situation, there are actually some positives. But I also think we can't shy away from the fact that it is tough out there, and it is really, really difficult for some people. And there are lots of people on the market looking for roles, and there are more people looking than there are jobs now, which has not been the case for quite some years. And so kind of with an industry hat on, because I think it's important that we not only look after our own hotels, but as Sally rightly said, we're part of an industry, and an industry that hasn't always had the greatest reputation, and we need to do more to look after that and to develop that. And so kind of with a master in-holders hat on, I had recently taken over the portfolio from David Morgan Hewitt on scholarships. So master in-holders have always looked after advancing and developing aspiring leaders in a number of roles. And scholarships now are just something that is not going to happen. And so we've talked about how do we keep the people that we can't afford to support in jobs currently still engaged and supported in the industry, because when we do get a bounce, and we will get a bounce, and hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later, we're absolutely going to need those people, and we're going to need lots of them, and we're going to need to scale up again. So how do we keep those people that may have gone off to retail or somewhere else engaged and still wanting to be part of hospitality when they can be? And so I can't talk too much about it at the moment, but on the 26th of November, we'll be launching a program that is aimed at engaging people that are either furloughed, not able to work, have gone off to do something else, and to give them the skills so that when they come back, they're better equipped to get a job with a hotel or somewhere in the wider hospitality again.
Looking forward to hearing more about that. So clearly from inspirational leaders, there is work being done with a vision looking forward in the past few weeks as we've been hearing that there is light at the end of the tunnel. We do have vaccines coming out. You're hearing leaders starting to think and talk about bringing teams back on and when the demand comes back. And having the positive side of being able to bring back some of the great people and recognising that many of the most talented people have been looking for opportunities elsewhere. And we do need to work hard to earn the right to bring them back. But I know, Tom, for you, the graduates is a particular focus of you.
Yeah.
Normally for recruitment people, they love to focus on the high end. You like to also work with people at the beginning of their careers and through those early stages of their careers. What's the feeling you're getting from people that are recent graduates or coming up to graduating, and what advice are you giving them along the lines of flexibility and engaging with future employers? Yeah,
I'm actually really happy you brought this one up. I thought that we were going to stick to the sort of seasoned professionals in the industry trying to find jobs, which is obviously something that I do specialise in, but I do think that right now there's such a focus, or there needs to be such a focus, on young people still coming into our industry. With regards to the feeling out there, I've got students that I was lecturing at their universities, now graduated, and they're terrified. They're absolutely terrified. They've worked so hard to get to where they want to be and go into the hospitality industry, and immediately there's closed doors. And that's not because leaders don't want them. That's the issue, and that's the problem, is that they believe that they're not good enough now because all these other more experienced people will get the jobs, when that's not the case. I don't want to sort of touch on it too long, but I had a candidate just last month. I lectured her in her classrooms. She was one of the best students I've ever talked to. She graduated in July. We got her first job as a marketing executive for a leading hospitality group just last month in the middle of a pandemic. So what I'd say to any student, and I'm hoping that they're watching, any of mine anyway, that I've told to tune in. If you haven't, I'll find out. But what I'd say to them is, get creative with how you're looking. Stop quantifying the day by you saying, I've clicked on 50 jobs. Stop clicking the apply now button and start talking to people like these leaders. Connect with people, talk to people, because they are terrified. They are wondering what the heck's going on. And what I would say to everybody who is in a senior level role right now, a lot like the chartered sort of element here, but we desperately need ambassadors in our industry that are going to spread some positive change and say, look, we want you, and we're going to figure out a way, a real way to get you into this industry. And we're not going to lose you to our other industries like accountancy, like finance, like banking, like all these other high-end elements in our social world that will take them because they are fantastic graduates. We need them in our industry because our industry is fantastic. I challenge anybody to say, to get through, like Sally did, from a very junior end all the way through to the top end, how many businesses can you say you've gone from function to function to function to function to function and created this individual that's not only commercially strong, they're socially strong, they're able to develop those soft skills throughout the hotel industry, because I started in hotels. And I implore anybody that's terrified of going into this industry to forget that and start connecting with people and start talking to them, because the human element is now back in our industry. And that's something I adore. And with this awful disruption, there has come incredible change. And that change is that human element. And I'm so glad that it's back. So that would be my message to them.
I think we've heard really clearly, and I love the examples that you guys have given, that it's very easy to have a look at a tight little phrase like we've got empowering employees and encouraging flexibility, but actually to think of what that means in both directions. And I've introduced to that the element of leadership as well. And you guys are showing that you're looking for leadership in your staff as well. That flexibility is not something that is imposed. It's something where you're so impressed by your candidates, your employees, who are taking the lead off their own initiative. I think quite a lot of us are going to be, and if you don't mind me quoting Michael Levy from Citizen M when he was on a call a little while ago, he said one of the big questions he'll be asking people when they apply to him after all of this is over is, what did you do during lockdown? What did you do through COVID? And they're looking for the things that you guys have been talking about, both what are employees looking for a leader they want to work for, what have those leaders been doing? And you've heard the kind of things from our panellists here, which just leaves me to say this has been an inspiration for me. I hope it has for those of you who are tuned in as well. And in just a few moments, we'll be introducing our next panel to you, which focuses even more on professional development, which comes back to what can you do? So we'll see you again in a few moments. Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you.